Okay, for those of you who would like to score well on the final exam, which is going to be held tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I have the exam in front. Oh, now the back row is awake. I've got the exam in front of me. Oh my God, they're even looking at me. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this many people looking at me. Just kidding. Normally, I don't see your faces. Anyway, long story short, for the people who have not just received an F in the course, and those people who are still eligible for a grade, then I'm going to go over the final exam that will be, and I'm just joking back there, by the way. Not that you even understood what I said, nor paid attention to it. Earlier in the conversation today, I gave you all an F, the whole back row. 3 times or 4 times, but that's the first time he heard it. The guy with the stripes, he's got 2 computers in his hand. He's like, what are you talking about? What does she keep saying? I'm joking. Just in case. All right. Just in case you did hear me. You don't get an F. Instead, you get to take this lovely exam tomorrow. All right, so here's the lovely exam. What is on the exam? For those people who are interested in paying attention here. I got question number 1, question number 2, question number 3 are all related. And they're all multiple choice. And they're all about primary keys, foreign keys, and referential integrity. Know the concept of referential integrity, primary keys and foreign keys, and how they're used in a database design. Referential integrity, for those people who have just heard this word for the first time, is the use, I'm not going to thoroughly describe this to you, but it is the use of the primary key and the foreign key to connect the data between the tables and enforce that a reference between a student ID in one table matches another one in another table. I know I spent at least a couple hours going over that in one of the weekend days. So it's called referential integrity for you new people. All right, so that's it. Question numbers 1, 2, and 3. Question number 4. I'll read you the question. Yeah. Consider the tables in the blah, blah, blah database given below. And then part A wants you to identify keys. Part B says draw an entity relationship diagram for the tables in the blah, blah, blah database. So I'm giving you the list of the tables, and I want you to work backwards, and you're going to actually work backwards through this. Instead of giving a problem description, which I think is harder to do actually, and then create the tables, I'm going to give you the tables, and then you're going to create the diagram that matches those tables. There's only one diagram that comes out of this. I can't give you the diagram. It's not on the paper, actually. I can't even read that to you. It's not even on the paper. So, someone with a Zoom camera. Oh, let me ask the question again. It is question number 4. The first 3 questions are all on keys. Question number 4 says, consider the tables in the blah, blah, blah diagram given below. Oops, A on the bottom of the page says you're identifying the keys, essentially. That goes along with the referential integrity question that's above it. And then part B is that you are creating an entity relationship diagram for the blah, 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 blah table. You must identify the cardinality in this table, in this diagram, excuse me, as well. In the one-to-many, many. For those people who have just now started to listen, the one-to-many, the many-to-many cardinality versus participation. Do we know what participation is? Because I know some people don't. It's either a 0 or a 1 normally in the diagrams. I shouldn't assume. You know, actually, there's a good percentage of the class who actually does pay attention, so I shouldn't insult everybody. So participation is the mandatory versus the optional participation. Is usually a 0 or a 1. Either you're participating or some are not going to participate. As an example, if I were discussing the relationship between a staff member and a branch manager, one staff member will manage a branch, and a branch has 100% participation, has a 1, because we have to have at least one branch manager for each branch. But not all the staff people need to be branch managers, so that could be a 0. So when we go 0, 1, The first number is participation, the second number is cardinality. So if it's a 0, it's optional. If it's a 1, it's mandatory, which means every branch has a manager, but not every staff person on the other side is a manager. One of them might be, hopefully, because we need one for that branch, but it may not necessarily, not everybody is a manager. That means it's optional. Mandatory versus optional participation versus cardinality. Cardinality means is it 1 or more. One student or students, one student takes multiple classes. Well, unless you don't, you take one class. You could take 1 or more. So the asterisk for the many, or M for many, or N for any number, depending upon the syntax you like. So multiplicity or cardinality tells you the number of participants. It's not whether or not your participation is optional or mandatory. It's telling you the number of participating entities. Is it a lot? Is it 0? Or is it more than 1? Or is it just 1? Is what it's basically telling you. And that's part B of the fourth question. The fifth, we have questions. You can stop me actually as I go through this, and I can answer questions for you. Okay, so question number 5 gives you an entity relationship diagram, and there are two multiple choice questions that are related to the entity relationship diagram that you're given in question 5. And then question 6 has you take the entity relationship diagram and translate it into a bunch of tables. Translate it into a bunch of tables, not really building the tables. You don't have to write any SQL queries. No SQL code on this entire exam. Instead, you have to map out. Let me just read you the question. It says, convert the ER diagram in question 5 to tables. Indicate which attributes are keys in your schema. That's the entire question. See, I can read you the questions because unless I give you the diagram, you're not going to know what to do with it. So you'll have to convert tables to an entity relationship diagram. You'll have to convert an entity relationship diagram into tables. You can use, and I give it to you actually in question number 4. I give you a table format. You can write it that way, or you can write it any way you want. You can use any symbol set that you want on the entity relationship diagram. So for those people who have been creating diagrams throughout the course, you probably have adjusted already, and you have a style that you like. Use that style. Obviously, you're not going to have any editing tools with you. It's going to be done on a piece of paper, not on the computer. No notes, no computers, no nothing. No talking during the exam either. So you'll have to recall from memory. So don't memorize a bunch of stuff. Simplify your approach. Don't worry about getting all the rules correctly in terms of the diagramming. Put something down that works. What I'm going to be looking at is what entities did you identify, what relationships did you identify. If you have the basic concept down, I can tell instantly. If you have no idea what you're doing, I can tell that instantly as well. So you can kind of gauge how many points you're going to get by your level. How close can you get to a solution that makes sense given the context. So that's number 6. Number 6 was converting number 5 into a list of tables. Excuse me? Number 6 says convert the ER diagram in question 5 to tables. Indicate which attributes are keys in your schema. Which is the exact opposite of question 4. So I give you the schemes, I give you the keys, and you put them into the table. And you put them into the diagram. Question 5 gave you, it's actually really only one question, but it's twofold. It gives you a diagram. This is the diagram that you're going to translate for question 6. But in question 5, you get the diagram, and you have to answer a multiple choice question about it. The multiple choice question is a 2-parter, but it's really one question. It's worth the same. So that's a very good question. Anybody else have anything else before I continue? Okay. Question number 7 is a database normalization question. Probably going to guess what I'm going to do to you. Going to give you a bad table, and you have to fix it. You don't have to show your steps, though. You're given 2 tables. Actually, I can read you the question. For each of the following tables, determine if each contains a violation of normal form. And I give you 2 tables. If so, identify the violation. And there's a little thing you fill out.
What normal form violation?
Yeah. What violation do you see in the normal form? So think about the things that could be possibly happening with. Review the normal form lecture. I give you all the violations. I give you what meets a first normal form, a second normal form, a third normal form. I give you what meets a BCNF format. BCNF? BNF. No, BCNF. I'm like thinking programming language concepts. Yeah?
So we just have to point out the violation.
Mm-hmm.
We have to draw.
You don't have to correct it. You just have to identify it. You don't have to do any correction. It's actually pretty easy. There's one that just, there might be multiple, but there's one that just stands right off the page for you. It's very straightforward. Oh, let's see what we have here. That was number 7. Number 8 and number 9 and number 10 are all 3 multiple choice questions. Oh, let's see. 2 of them, 8 and 9, are SQL statements. I can actually read you those 2 questions. The 2 questions, number 8 and number 9, look like this. Which of the following this is number, number 8 says which of the following statements does not contain an error. Number 9 says which of the following statements contains an error. One's which one's correct, which one's wrong. And then and they all look correct or they all look wrong, one or the other. You have to find of the wrong one, which one is the correct one, and of the wrong ones, which one of them really is the wrong one.
If the actual SQL query.
Uh-huh. Yes. You don't have to write any queries, but you have to look at two query questions. And then there's only 10 questions on this exam, by the way. Let me just make sure. Or maybe there's another page. Nope, there's another page. There's more than 10. The 10th question is about SQL, the language. It is not a command statement question. It's just a general question about SQL query language. It's actually kind of an easy question. That was number 10. I'm sorry?
Is it true or false?
It's not. It's a multiple choice.
Can you read again?
It's about SQL as a query language. It's a question about SQL. Number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's it. There's only 20 questions. Are all multiple choice questions. 11 through 20, actually really 8 through 20, because 8, 9, and 10 were multiple choice too. So I couldn't remember how many I put on here. So number 11, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 questions of this bunch that I'll read as follows. Which of the following is false? And then you have A, B, C, D, and E. All the E's say all of the above are true. Meaning none of them are false.
So what would be the area you're putting the top?
They're all different. They're all in different statements. You know, as an example, not one of them This is too easy for one of them, but something like SQL is a query language used to query databases. True, you know, okay, all right, okay, good. Number 2, the select statement does a blah, blah, blah. Number 3, the inner join does a blah, 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 blah. You know, it's basically where statements where you have to, it's almost like 4 true-false statements all into one. It's like 4 questions, but it's all in one question. Because you have to look at that and go, is that one true? Is that one true? Is that one true? Is that one true? And then decide which one's false. Some people like that format, some people don't. I could have broken that into 4 questions, actually. True or false, true or false, true. But it's only worth 1 point. So. Or actually, a couple of them say both A and B, C and D, A and E. You know, different combinations are available as well.
Does the question say that the answer like has specific number of answers? Like
Only 1 correct answer per question. Yeah, there's no multiple answer, no select. Not all of that apply. Only 1 correct.
I mean, only one correct answer.
Only 1 correct answer per question. Oh, let's see. So I got all the falses out of the way. We have one that's on, let me give you the subject areas. They're primarily SQL and entity relationship diagramming. We have one on normal forms, so of the variety I just gave you a few minutes ago. Another normalization question on this last page, along with
That's true false.
no, they're no true false. They're all multiple choice, but it's I can't read you the question on that one. I was going to try to, but I can't read it to you. Because then you'll go look up the answer.
Read the choices.
I can't give you the choices either. Oh, no, I can't give you the choices either. So some of them are on normal form, some of them are on entity relationship diagrams, some of them are on SQL statements. What else can I give you? I mean, that's about it. Nothing on the Oracle specific features, nothing on MySQL specific features either. They're basically, I made this mostly database in general, database concepts in general. Do we have questions about the final? So you have choices on the final. You have choices. You have choices right now, actually. Here's your choices right now.
So what's the time for final exams again?
Oh, tomorrow's final exam, I believe the administration starts them at 3. They give you a little survey, and then you take the exam. The survey takes 10 seconds. Just like, it's supposed to be what everybody else is doing. I don't know what everybody else is doing now. Somebody once told me that, somebody today told me they're starting at 4 now? I thought they started at 3.
for what?
Last year.
Really? If you start at 3, get out earlier. The exam's not going to take you more than an hour. Maybe 2 hours, 4, 5, 6. It depends on how slow you are. Some people will take 2 hours, some people will take 5 minutes. So, depends. And there's only 20 questions, but you might think a lot about the questions. So, the due date for everything is August 22nd. So if you don't make the due date, you're not going to get it at all. Because I can't extend it because that's like the last week. In fact, the grades are due on the end of the weekend. So there's no hope at that point. And everything should be graded probably by the 23rd. So unfortunately, the way that EMS is set up, I can't grade early because then I can't tell what's graded and what's not graded. I have to go through the whole thing anyway because it won't let you go back in and do it again. So I have to regrade everything. I know, it's ridiculous. So that's why I always wait until the due date, and then after the deadline, nobody can turn it in anymore, then I just do them all in a batch because otherwise I can't go back in and see what's been graded or what hasn't been graded. So anyway, long story short, the grades will happen on the 23rd, which I think is Friday, actually. Is the 22nd is a Thursday? Let's just take a look at the calendar real quick. August 22nd is a Thursday. On the 23rd is when I'll be doing my grading. If you're in the C++ class, our exam is after that weekend. It's the 24th, 25th. object-oriented programming, I believe in C++, is on the 25th, after the due date of all the assignments. That's like, I can't believe they even pushed me that weekend. That's like the weekend's after the term ends. So, but all the assignments are due on the 22nd before that weekend starts. So some of you are in both sections, that's why I was mentioning that. So, all right, so now what are we going to do? Now that we've covered all the material that's been on the exam and you know what's on the exam, we're going to use the rest of the time today to work on what's called hands-on practice 2. Hands-on practice 2 is in 2 parts, and it's worth 10 points total. So if we look at the syllabus, which I still have out here actually, and I look at the point spread, I see that the final exam is worth 25 points. You can get 10 replacement points if you do these 2 exercises, which means you only have to worry about making 15 points to get an A on the final. It only counts towards the final. It doesn't count towards the assignments. If you've done the assignments, the take-home assignments, there were 5 of them. If you did the in-class stuff from the previous week, you only have to turn in 4 of them. So you have those 4 take-home assignments, and then you have to do the CSLO anyway. You can't substitute the CSLO essay for one of the assignments. It doesn't work that way. And then we have 25% on the exam. So if you want to get an easy 10 points already before you even step in to take the exam, you can earn 10 points of it already. You can't get more than 25 points. 25 is the maximum you can get. So if you do your 10 points now, when you get in, if you do 16 or 17 correct, you're going to end up with more than 25 points, which 16 or 17 out of 25, I believe, is like an F or something. Or I don't know. It's not a 12 and a half, I guess 13. It's about a D or C or something. Not enough to get an A in the class, really. So here's your opportunity. So what do I want you to do? Well, 5 of the points is super easy. The other 5 is a little bit more difficult. So I scanned this out of a book, actually, and I just put this one page in here that had the descriptions rather than retyping it. And so I can give you, and there's rights credits given in here, so it's not being plagiarized or illegally produced. I got permission to produce it. But long story short, if you're paying attention right now and you want to get your 10 points, write down one thing. Write down 2 things. Write down number 1. Out of these, because there's multiple things in here, as I mentioned before, it comes out of a book. Number 1 is for 5 points. It's called the Music Collection Database. You got your choice, however. There's 2 sections. They all have 1. So number 1, we got 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. There's 3 different options that have 1 stars, and then we have one here that says 2 stars next to it. And then we have ones that say 3 star. We only have 1 3 star. Naturally, the second 5 points is the 3 star. You may pick one of the 1 stars. So you've wrote down 1. One of the 1 stars for 5 points. What are the 1 stars? Some of them you can do, some of them you can't. Well, some of them are going to be a little hard to do. For example, the first one. You've just purchased a 200 disc CD carousel and now you want to organize the catalog of your CDs. Okay. You realize that without an updated list, it's going to be difficult to maintain an accurate list of what you have in the changer. Okay. So to get the most out of your new purchase, you decide to put a database in order. So you're going to create a new database called Music Collection. And the table is going to be called CD Catalog. And the table you're going to create should include the artist name, the artist title, the genre, the position number fields. Make the position number field the primary key because you may have multiple CDs by a given artist. So, and then enter at least 15 records. Include an entry that has your name and artist as an artist. You don't have to preview and print the table when you're finished. You just make it. So you're going to log into your MySQL account. You're going to create a database, maybe not using that name. You're just going to use the format you need to use, like student 015 _ music or something. I'm going to be looking for one of these databases that you created. If you picked the music one, that's pretty straightforward. That's a 1 star. The second one is the Valley View Newsletter Advertising Database. All the 1 stars are the same difficulty level. They're all beginner. They're really easy. So I picked an easy one, and then the 2 stars, the intermediate, and then the 3 stars, the more advanced. I'll tell you what's different section in a few minutes. Patient database is a dental office. You have dental patients, and you're going to put the database is going to be called dental patients, and you're going to put patients' information in it. And you're going to put in stuff for referred by and all this stuff. You have to interpret what data type you want to use for the fields. You have to interpret. You only have to do 1 of these 1 stars. So 1 star. So if you don't like this one for the music collection, you can do the dental patients. You don't like the dental patients, you can do the Valley Newsletter Advertising Database. This one's a little different though. This one has you create a Valley View news and tell you something about the meeting. And see if you can do this one. The table's going to be named advertisers, and you're going to have 10 rows in the table. Different theme. The second one, skip. You can't do the old watch database using the web. It's not going to work out because this was originally designed to be used with Microsoft Access, and you don't have print to web. So don't do this one. It's the only 2 star in here. I didn't tell you to do a 2 star. Do 1 of the 1s, and you only have 1 3 in here. So here's the other one. You don't get a choice on this one. This is the one you do. So write down number 5 or 3 star. So 1 of the 1s plus this 3 star. What's the 3 star going to do? So you work for an accounting department at a startup company. It's going to have multiple tables is what you're going to have. And the company's called AMP Enterprises. And one of your duties is to reimburse employees for small company related expenses. It's kind of like a petty cash fund, which is going to end up now as been the simple task of having employees fill out a form, and then they submit the form for you for payment. So when you cut the checks for them, they're charged to the general expense fund of the company. So however, the company has grown tremendously, and in the last year adding employees and departments at a rapid rate. So we got a lot of people, a lot of employees. And the executive team has decided that it's time to start managing the income and expenses on a more type of detailed level. So to this end, you're going to create a database that includes employee ID, employee name, submission date, expense type, and expense amount for each expense report that's turned in. And then you're going to name the database AMP Enterprises. You just call it AMP if you want. I don't really care what you call it. I'm going to be able to identify which one is which by looking at the tables. In this database, you're going to create 2 tables. So the first one, the number 1's only have you create 1 table. The number 2's have you create 2 tables. So you got 2 tables. One of the employee's information named employee info, and the other one is the expenses named employee expenses. So you're keeping track of employees, you're keeping track of the expenses. Include an employee ID, first name, last name, employee info table. Include an employee ID, submission date, expense type, and expense amounts in the second table. Use the currency data type for the expense amount field. Imagine you're going to put currency in there. Don't make it text. So make it, I don't think we have a currency type, do we? We can make it double. So we can hold make it hold numbers or money, currency. We don't necessarily have a type called currency that we can use. You have to interpret this to kind of create it to make it work. And all the appropriate data types for all the other fields. Size the fields appropriately. Don't worry about that either. You know, make sure you can hold in, you know, it doesn't hold $1.50. It doesn't hold, the maximum it can't hold is like $9.99. So maybe make it 3 digits long or something so it can hold more. So delete the ID field from the employee info table and make the employee ID field the primary key. Well, you don't have to worry about that. If you don't put it in, you don't have to delete it, right? Don't put it in. Make the employee ID the same in both tables. So don't worry about that. This was also written for Microsoft Access, by the way, and Microsoft Access puts in the IDs automatically, which is the issue. That's why it wanted you to delete it. You're not doing this in Access, so it's not putting the ID in there for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about that, actually. Enter at least 15 records. I don't care. You want to make them 5 records in each one, that's fine. Not a data entry course. If you can make a query to insert 5 records, you can do one for 15. I know that. So make it 5 if you want. Adjust the column widths as necessary. You don't have to worry about that either. Delete one of the records you just entered and then edit one of the remaining records so it contains your name as the employee. When you send me the information you're going to send me, which is going to be your student number, and for this assignment you don't have to send me anything. I can go in and I can see your stuff online. So when you submit this, put in a message to me, bhecker@itu.edu, same as before. You just say use the same address, use the same message, just reply to your message or reply to all. In the body of the message, put the queries that you used. So put the queries you used, so you go number 1. I don't care which one it is. You don't have to tell me which one you picked. When I look at your queries are all going to be really much the same for all 3 of those or 4 of those scenarios. You're just creating one table. Put the SQL query in there, and then go number 2, or put whatever else you want to put in there. The second part, give me this query, the one you made to create both tables. So as you're putting them in and you're doing it, cut and paste it, put it in the body of the email message. So, because most of you are using queries to create this stuff if you're using the tools that we used last time. If not, write the queries. If you did it graphically, found a graphical tool to do it. I don't know if you did or not, but if you did, then just write the queries. You have to write the queries anyway. So this is in lieu of having to write queries on the final exam. You can write queries here. So, at the end here, it says enter 10 records into the employee field. Yeah. You can give me those queries too. One should be an expense record for each one containing your name. Review and print you don't have to print the tables. You don't even have to send me it. Just send me the queries. Do we have questions about this? Yeah?
Doing the query to create the table and insert the data.
Yeah. It's 2 queries. Well, one query to create one table, one query to create the other table. After you create the data tables, you're going to put the data into it. So you can just cut and paste off the screen, or put them in a notepad or whatever, and then cut and paste that, put it into the screen, or type it in, however you want to do it. So, do we have any questions? It's worth 10 points total if you do number 3, and you do one of the ones on the top. Don't do them all, just do one. They're all kind of stupid. So, I mean, not stupid, but they're all kind of easy. The no-brainer is to do one. So, if you don't have a computer, you can't get this to work right, or you don't feel inclined to do anything, you just want to check your email for because we're going to have the rest of today, but you can't leave here till 5 o'clock. So 5 o'clock is the earliest I can let you out. So we're going to stay in the room till 5. It is only it's almost 4 o'clock. We have an hour and 20 minutes left. You'll have time tomorrow to work on this as well. This should be easy. This should be really easy for you. You're just creating 2 tables. We're actually creating 3 tables, 1 for the first one, 2 for the second, and then you're just putting data into the tables. If you can't finish it this weekend, you have till the 22nd to send me that email. So you might say, I'm just going to check my email, I'm going to ace that final, no problem. You come in, you take the final, and you go, oh my God, I don't know the answers to any of these questions. Oh my God, I better do that thing. So then you go home and you do that thing, and then you send it to me, and then you get your 15 points. If you don't think you're going to need the 10 points. If you don't think you're going to need the 10 points, then don't do it. If you want the 10 points, then do it. It's up to you. You have one of the ones that say 1 on them for 5 points.
Yeah, can we submit only one?
Yeah, if you want to do just 1, you can do just 1. If you're that confident. And then, actually, you can leverage it. You can just do the first one if you want. Take the final. You feel really good about the final, don't worry about it. Don't do the other one. After you take the final, you go, oh no. I better do the other one. I need an extra 5 points.
Right.
Then you can send me another email later on with the other one. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So this is kind of like, I wish I could do the whole final this way. I think that would have been really great, but you have to do an in-class final exam. So. All right, so you have till 5 to work on this, and then if you don't get it in, don't worry. It's due no later than the 22nd. If you don't give it to me by the 22nd, I cannot use it in your grading. Now you can talk.